David has been with the company about 7 years now and has been running many of the products that we all take for granted these days as being the incredibly innovative things that we use. So David's going to share a number of what we have worked on recently, some things that maybe some of you folks haven't seen before. So ladies and gentlemen, David Hahn.
Thank you. I appreciate being called well-heeled. You should see what I look like most of the work days back in Mountain View when I don't wear a suit. It's only in New York when they have me dress up like this. So I'm looking forward to today to walking you guys through a couple of products really all oriented around professional insights. So professional insights, critical to LinkedIn, I think critical to your customers. But before getting into LinkedIn products, I thought I would start with actually a great insight that I saw from one of your advertisements. And so this is, as I was flipping through a magazine as we were about to take off, in that period of time, really the only period of time in our lives when we're required by the FAA to disconnect from all our electronic devices. So yes, being from Silicon Valley, I actually was looking at a paper magazine for a moment. And I saw this ad, which I took a snapshot of. Of course, it looks beautiful when you see it in the magazine itself. This picture doesn't do it justice. And this is a Fidelity ad. This is at least one part of a Fidelity ad. So goats are producing silk, stronger than steel. And so I see this very thought-provoking, piques my interest. And of course, what I want to do next, I want to learn more. And there's a great link to the Fidelity website. Of course, I have not yet hit 10,000 feet, so I can't plug in. But I waited patiently, and finally I get the signal. I go directly to the Fidelity website, and then start to look at the video that's behind this and a couple other things, and learn quite a bit. In this case, it turns out that synthetic biology, among other themes, is really an important insight for investors and kind of a new theme for a place moving forward to think about investment. So long story short, by the time we hit 30,000 feet, I had sold off all of my assets, which of course you heard earlier are sizable. And I bought as many goats as I could get my hands on. So disclaimer before I proceed, I am not a licensed financial advisor, so you should not make any financial decisions based on the content in this presentation today. So moving along with insights. So our mission at LinkedIn, connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And again, the key way that we think about this from a product strategy perspective is not so much anymore about providing as much information as possible, but distilling those down into key insights that our users can appreciate, that our users can act on. But from the very beginning, we weren't able to deliver those insights because insights require two things. The first thing is a lot of members. And many of you have seen the LinkedIn growth story. And just recently, we crossed the 160 million members point. But just any members won't do to drive key professional insights. And one of the things that we're most proud of, in fact, is how high quality we've kept the audience as we've grown to the scale that we're at today. So, of course, we're the most influential, educated, and affluent audience on the web, or our users are, I should say. There's about 3.2 million CXOs and VPs on LinkedIn. Household income remains very high, in fact, the highest, according to Nielsen and, of course, our own data. And about 71% of the folks that are on our network are college graduates. So really having this critical mass, this high-quality critical mass of professionals is really the first ingredient that, from a product perspective, we need to build some of the products that I'm going to talk with you about in a moment. The second is what many of the panelists talked about today, and that is the social graph. And in our case, again, it's really the quality of the social graph that's important. But one of the great things about LinkedIn, and one of the great things about our original value proposition, professional networking, is that value proposition happens to resonate most strongly with the most senior decision makers out there. So we see this great combination between the audience characteristics, and again, our original value proposition, which is professional networking. So it's the network and it's the audience that really come together and allow us to build some of the cool products that I'm going to talk about now. So first, LinkedIn Today. So LinkedIn Today starts with one other component besides the network and besides the audience, and that is the share button. The LinkedIn share button is now on over 400,000 publisher sites. So when the 160 million members on LinkedIn are out across the web reading professional content, things that they find interesting, they're of course coming to the share button, one click, usually right in context in the article, and sending just a stream of data, just a wealth of data into the LinkedIn system. And in our case, we do something actually fairly unique with that. Unlike other social readers, where they might show you only the articles your friends are reading or your colleagues are reading, we take a slightly different spin. We actually take all that data, and we take the data that we know about you from your professional profile, your title, your educational background, your skills. And we actually use that to find people like you. And so the LinkedIn Today news experience that we can deliver to you is actually what people like you professionally are out there reading. And so we think that, in sort of this world of information, in a world where there are 400,000 publishers and there's all this noise out there, it allows us to create a highly relevant experience and a very strong signal for content that we think is going to be relevant to all of you. And of course, your LinkedIn Today experience is very different than the LinkedIn Today experience of people in office buildings around us here in New York. Because depending on your function, depending on your skill set, it's a very sort of custom experience. So part of what we do when we build products, and I think this is just a display, by the way, of what LinkedIn Today looks like, at least in my case. One of the things that we do is from a product philosophy perspective, and I think Amazon actually started this, so we can't take credit for it, but it's to start with the design of what you want the press release or the press headline to read. To actually, before you start designing the feature, to understand where you want to go, what you want people to say about your product and feature. And I've got to say, this Forbes article that just came out recently that described LinkedIn Today as the perfect morning newspaper was eerily close to what we aspired to do in the days before we launched LinkedIn Today. So it's great for us to see this feedback, and you see it in the usage metrics too on LinkedIn. It's been just extraordinary. So the next Insight product I want to get to is the iPad. And so I'm going to switch the screen over so that we're actually looking at my iPad experience. And I want to show you guys three things. So number one, the iPad is a great opportunity. Some of the folks today talked about mobile. Mobile's been a great opportunity for us too. In some cases, like on the iPad, it allows us to create a whole new experience from scratch, to take all the assets that we've built, all the data, but design it into a completely new user experience. And so the user experience that we built on the iPad, we wanted a very simplified way for professionals essentially to start their day and keep a professional dashboard around the news and people that are around them in a professional environment. And that's what you see here. And again, this is real data that you see from my iPad app. And so, of course, we start with something like news. So the same LinkedIn Today, news that you saw in the LinkedIn Today screenshot. And so I can flip through, and I'm seeing people in my network, comments they've made about particular articles. And again, I'm just seeing highly relevant things to my profession. So it's a lot of some articles about LinkedIn. It's articles about product. It's articles about design. And so this helps me get started in the day to make sure I'm kind of well informed about what's happening. There's also a cool view on here that's actually slightly different than LinkedIn Today, and I actually find most valuable. And that's, what are my coworkers sharing? So these are people that I may not be connected to at all, but of course we at LinkedIn know that I work at LinkedIn, and therefore we can see all the sharing data from all of the thousands of employees that work at LinkedIn. And again, it's a great way for me to start my day, to understand what have my colleagues already read about, what are the things that our CEO has already read when he wakes up at 5:20 in the morning, or at least is firing off emails at 5:20 in the morning, so that by the time I come in, I'm really well prepared to answer some of those questions. So that's part of the insights that we start with in this experience. The other really cool thing is it connects with your calendar. And so I'm going to show you this here. I'm going to show you kind of, I'm going to take you back a day because today is a little bit less interesting. Not that we're not having a great time here. But what you see here, it's imported all the events from the calendar. And it's cross-referenced that with all the people that are on the invites of those events. And it's pulled in their profiles. So again, as I'm preparing for my day, I can look at my calendar and I can see the kinds of people that I'm meeting with. So this is an internal meeting that was about a slideshow, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But you can imagine if this is an external meeting, I can see what the meeting's about. I can click on profiles for people that are going to be at the meetings. And then I can drill in and sort of better understand who do we potentially know in common if this happens to be someone I haven't met before. Are there any professional details on their profile that I can use to kind of create a warmer connection? So, I certainly take a lot of outbound meetings, and I use this often. I know a lot of the people that work at your companies are meeting, with folks externally often, and it's just really a great way to be prepared for those conversations. Again, in really a simplified experience. And then finally, the people news. The people news, which LinkedIn is kind of well known for. Being able to see a lot of the moves in my network. Who has just been promoted, who has changed jobs. It's all these events that provide me an opportunity to reach out. In this case, this is Jeff Weiner, who I believe just added a board seat, and then others in my network who, Nate Johnson, for instance, who just became the VP of Marketing at Path, which of course is a hot Silicon Valley company. So those are really the three categories of insights. Insights from a news perspective, insights from who am I going to be actually meeting with today, and then what I call all sort of the people news in my network. So this has been out for about 2 weeks, and we'll switch over back to the presentation. And we've seen some pretty phenomenal results in terms of folks downloading the app. So this is a screenshot from the App Store last night. So we are #1 in the App Store. We just beat out very narrowly, I think, Highway Rider, which I'm sure many of you are playing right now as I speak. I can see some of you sort of tilting back and forth, so that's what I'm assuming you're doing. But the amazing thing is in the last 2 weeks, we've had more downloads of our iPad app than the entire North American circulation for The Economist. And The Economist is a great magazine, but it just shows you how quickly some of this stuff is moving. And so we have really high hopes, and we're really appreciative of all the user feedback that we've received about the app. The other very cool insight that I'll share with you guys, based on these last couple of weeks of data, we see a very interesting login pattern with LinkedIn. So you see kind of this spike, in the morning, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning is when traffic on LinkedIn.com. That's when everyone's kind of logging in, getting their day started, reading LinkedIn Today, accepting connections. And then you start to kind of see it tail off towards the end of the workday around 5 o'clock. Well, we see the inverse with the iPad. We see a little bit more kind of early morning usage, what we call people kind of drinking their coffee and getting prepared for the day. And then you see the iPad usage pick up again once people have arrived home, when they're sort of catching up. And so from a LinkedIn product perspective, it really doesn't get any better than this, because we see that these two, in some ways, different products are serving a different purpose for our users at different points in the day. Last shot I'll show you, and actually you're the first folks to see this. In fact, most people at LinkedIn have not seen this. But coming very soon, of course, we're going to allow some of our marketing partners to have ads in our iPad app. And we're very excited about that. We're going to be very selective about the folks that we bring in, and I'm sure many of the folks in this room will be a part of that program. So looking forward to that. The next thing I want to talk about, actually one other stat as we sort of look at these three products. So I've already talked to you about the LinkedIn membership, high household income, likely to be very senior. But then we start to look at the products that we're rolling out to see how those are trending relative to decision makers, because it's such an important audience to us. And we see that as people graduate from being LinkedIn members and using some of our basic functionality, the people that are most likely to be using LinkedIn today are in fact the more senior parts of our audience. And then the people that have already downloaded our iPad app are the most senior kind of cohort that we have in the system. And so again, as we think about professional insights, as we think about the kinds of people that value those professional insights, the data is really confirming our expectation. The data is really confirming our design. So the next content and insights product I want to talk to you guys about, some of you may have seen LinkedIn made an acquisition last week. We acquired SlideShare. And essentially in our SlideShare acquisition, we acquired about 9 million pieces of insight. So SlideShare is a site where professionals across the globe, and it truly is a global site, can upload essentially PowerPoint presentations. There's been about 9 million uploads of PowerPoint presentations, and on their site alone, they get about 29 million unique visitors every month. And so you get a wide range of content. It's mostly professional, but by topicality, it ranges pretty substantially. But the great thing about SlideShare, it's not just uploading a slideshow and having 29 million uniques look at it. SlideShare allows you to embed these slideshows across the web. And in fact, there's 1.4 million unique domains that have these embedded slide players. So the reach of things that get uploaded to SlideShare go far, far beyond just slideshare.com. In some of these cases, it's publishers, it's TechCrunch, it's Forbes, kind of building part of their message in a SlideShare-like format. But for other companies like an Edelman, like a Cisco, like a Shell, they're hosting all kinds of organic content on their own website. In some cases, it's white papers. In other cases, it's a study. In many cases, I've seen actually people highlight the work in their portfolio of some of these firms, especially in the ads and PR world. So you get really a broad variety of people that have embedded these players. The other great thing about SlideShare, LinkedIn has always been a leader in people search. So give us a first and last name that's a professional, and we are highly likely to have that LinkedIn profile result be one of the top 3 results in LinkedIn. But one of the advantages for content now with SlideShare, so not profiles, but slideshows, is now this content is in the index. And one of the great things, one of the things that we really appreciated about the technology of SlideShare was they do a great job interpreting what's in the slideshow. They deconstruct it to make it highly search engine optimized, which is great for anyone uploading content to the site in terms of discovery. They've also gone to great lengths to make it mobile optimized. So we're all very clear on the mobile trend today. We're all very clear that consumer web traffic is moving towards mobile. In fact, about 20% of consumer web traffic has moved and is now mobile at the very least. And so that mobile optimization of content where somebody can create some content once, upload it, and then have it both discoverable in Google, but actually easily accessible on a mobile experience has been very important to us. So the last sort of set of folks that have really discovered this is B2B marketers. They've recognized that this is the new way relative to a world of white papers. We are about to launch a white paper today, and I got to tell you, I love white papers, but there's a sad truth, and that is most people do not read white papers. Most people do not read. It's more than 140 characters. It doesn't work anymore. Slideshows work. It's pictures. It's usually a very limited amount of text. And so business-to-business marketers are finding that instead of developing thought leadership in things like white papers, they're putting it in slideshows. And they're finding the audience is much more receptive. But more important, all the social controls that are the wrapper for a SlideShare allow that particular piece of content to go viral. And that's the piece where the LinkedIn marriage with SlideShare is in fact most exciting. We're going to take this great repository of content and we're going to connect it to that professional graph. And so now whether you're a B2B marketer or you're someone else that's created SlideShare content, the possibilities for the reach to expand from that content are really endless as they go through the graph. So before I finish on SlideShare, I thought I did a quick search given the topic today for personal finance. 2 slides I thought I would share with you. So one, this is a slide that after I discovered it, I promptly sent to my financial advisor. We've had a couple tough years. And this is the way that it looks like we've been trading over the last couple of years. And we're hoping to kind of provide the inverse of that. The next slide was a popular slide on a popular slide on coupon cutting. And when I first saw the title, I started to kind of move past it in the results, but I found it was one of the decks that was most shared on SlideShare. So I clicked into it, the social proof, right? Topic maybe isn't that interesting to me. I clicked in. And you get this fascinating, it's a fascinating 10-slide set that looks like it was designed potentially by Meredith or some other kind of economist that goes through the fluctuations of sale prices at grocery stores. And I got to tell you, since going through this deck, I've never paid so little for Yoplait yogurt. So I really highly recommend you go through the deck. So it's not just LinkedIn providing insights. As we've shown in SlideShare, it's us being a platform to surface the relevant insights. And one of the best products today in terms of ingesting a lot of insights from many of you and then bringing those in a relevant way to our customers and to our users has been company profiles and company pages. So company pages, there's about 2 million of them now. Actually, there's about 2.5 million of them now on LinkedIn. It grows pretty quickly. And a company profile, for those of you that aren't aware, for a long time, LinkedIn had people profiles, but there wasn't a presence for companies. We changed that, and there's been an incredible amount of demand, both from large businesses and small businesses. They want to be connected with the network. And so what you see here, this is Merrill Lynch's company profile, and I'm highlighting here that they have about 101,000 followers. And how many of you remember kind of the Staples ad campaign, the easy button? Anyone? No? No one goes to Staples? A couple people? Good. I go to Staples. I love Staples. So now I lost my train of thought. Staples, Office Depot, Merrill Lynch. So Staples had the easy button. The follow button is literally a magic button for B2B marketers. And the reason it's magic is because you can take this follow button and you can put it in front of any audience that you select on LinkedIn. You have access to all of our data, and you can find the specific audience that you're interested in. There's no guesswork. It's not, are there potentially financial advisors on this site? Are there potentially high-income people? You get to define specifically the audience that you want to attract and you want to start a conversation with. And then you put this follow button in front of them, usually wrapped with some great content. And all you need is one click. And once that user clicks, essentially, you now have a lifetime relationship with that user. You have the ability with that user to push a constant stream of content. And so from an insights perspective, that's incredibly powerful. The next example that I'll show you is actually from Merrill Lynch, and it's taking some of the stuff that we've talked about today, the thought leadership, the insights, the things that many of your companies have already spent a lot of money to create, but that just sits somewhere on a web page or sits somewhere in a white paper. And they've bubbled that up, and now they're pushing that to their followers. And what's so incredible about this, I've already talked about the appetite of our users for insights. The updates that we're getting from customers, and especially customers in the financial services industry that are pushing financial services insights, these are some of the most engaging updates of any updates that we push on LinkedIn, company related or not, LinkedIn Today related or not. So we see evidence in the data that when insights like this are pushed from reputable companies, and when they're framed correctly to be interesting, they can be incredibly powerful and well received by our audience. And remember, it's not just your audience, it's not just the followers that receives these messages. The audience receives the messages, and then they have all the normal social actions, like, comment, share. And when they click on any of those things, it then takes these messages, these insights, and it distributes them further into the network. You start to get virality. And one of the unique things on LinkedIn, people are connected to people like them. Many of you are probably connected to lots of other people in financial services. And so what you find is when people are pushing B2B content, when they're pushing financial services content, not only are they sharing it, but the people that they're sharing it with, it's highly relevant to those folks too. So the viral cycle continues. And it's just been this really great dynamic, to see on LinkedIn. Context is the other key part of it. And actually, some of the panelists today said it better than I ever can as they've talked about Facebook and Twitter and follow on LinkedIn. But we find, whether it's the data on our own site, whether it's third-party research that we've done, people are following companies for insights on LinkedIn. They're following companies for other reasons on other social platforms. And for many products and services, those are great platforms. But when you're trying to drive insights, when you're trying to push sophisticated content to a set of users that has a high household income and is likely to be decision makers, it's really this intent that you want to focus on. We did a case study for someone in the room, but I won't reveal the name. And it's obviously a very high-profile financial customer. And we took a look with a third party. We took a look at all of their followers. So they had targeted their followers based on the parameters that we had given. But we get this great insight out of the research. So we found that they're certainly hitting their target audience. 84% were the financial decision makers in the household. 54% in market for a product in the next 12 months, and then 76%, again, following really only on LinkedIn, only interested in getting that content on LinkedIn. Then we continued the study to see the impact on a lot of the core measures after they ran a campaign, after they acquired followers and started pushing content. And again, just some great results. Brand familiarity going up by double digits. Likelihood to recommend going up by double digits. Likelihood to purchase, again, going up by double digits. So all this really great to see in terms of a product that clearly is driving insights to end users being really productive for the end customer. You heard some folks talk about the Citi deal today, and I think there's going to be a panel that goes really deep on this topic, but I couldn't close without sharing this with some of you guys. So this was sort of the ultimate set of bringing LinkedIn content together, bringing external content together, and sort of framing a fantastic topic. And so in this case, Citi joined up with us at LinkedIn, created a special edition around women in business on LinkedIn today, developed a group around women in business, and then drove media to get people to these various assets. And the kinds of conversations, the kinds of content that have happened just over this 2-week period has really been phenomenal. The first great sign is when literally people are coming in and their comments are thanking Citi for coming up with such a great topic and discussion and set of materials. But the business insights from this were also fantastic. You have folks talking about creating, what are the components of creating the right professional network? You have folks talking about how to raise money. You have people talking about the right way to sell products at both the small business level and at the enterprise level. So this was a case where it wasn't so much Citi coming with a specific set of insights, but really framing a great discussion that clearly a lot of people were excited to come talk about. So I would leave you all to think, to leave here, and my ask of you is to think about a lot of the thought leadership that all of your companies have already invested in. On LinkedIn, you have an audience that's craving data. You have an audience that's craving insight. And for the most part, I've been to your company websites and I've met with many of you in this room. You've already developed the insights. And so I think it's really a great opportunity for you to infuse a lot of that great content into the LinkedIn platform so it reaches this audience that's really looking forward to hearing from you in this context. Thank you very much.